Hello, I'm Jen. Welcome back to my channel, Literary Love 123, where I combine my master's in English with my passion for the horror genre to talk about the books that I read. Today's video is my March TBR video. So, after this quick intro, we'll be right back to get into what I have planned for March. March is shaping up to be a fantastic month as far as reading goes, anyway. I can't say the same for the rest of life, but we're here to talk about reading. So that's what we're going to do. There are a couple of book clubs that I want to participate in March, as well as a readathon. And information for both of those book clubs and for the readathon will all be linked down in the description box. So let me talk to you about the first book club that I plan to participate in, and that is the Death by TBR book club, and that is run by Crystal from Fiber Artsy and Kelly from Kelly Hooked on Books. And for this month, they have chosen to read The Robber Bride by Margaret Atwood. So let me pull that up really quickly. I should have had it ready, but I didn't. And that's just kind of how we go sometimes, right? So this one, again, is by Margaret Atwood. And let me tell you what The Robber Bride is about. Roz, Charis, and Tony, university classmates decades ago, were reunited at Xenia's funeral and have met monthly for lunch ever since, obsessively retracing the destructive swath she once cut through their lives. A brilliantly inventive fabulist, Xenia had a talent for exploiting her friends' weaknesses, wielding intimacy as a weapon, and cheating them of money, time, sympathy, and men. But one day, 5 years after her funeral, they are shocked to catch sight of Xenia. Even her death appears to have been yet another fiction. As the three women plot to confront their larger than life nemesis, Atwood proves herself a gleefully acute observer of the treacherous shoals of friendship, trust, desire, and power. So that sounds very interesting. The next event that I want to talk about is the Week of Weird. This is an event that is hosted a couple of times a year by Crystal at Fiber Artsy and Jason at Jason's Weird Reads. And the Week of Weird takes place from March 2nd to March 8th. So here are the prompts. Number one, read a weird book or story featuring a plant or fungus. So for this one, I have chosen Pink Slime, which is written by Fernanda Trias and translated by Heather Cleary. And it is about an algae bloom. So technically, this is not a book about a plant or fungus, and I had to look that up. So I'm just going to tell you what I learned when I Googled it. An algae is not considered a plant. It is classified as a protist, meaning it is a plant-like organism that lacks the complex structures and features of a true plant, like roots, stems, and leaves, even though it can photosynthesize like plants do. Now, it is also not a fungus because fungi belong to the kingdom fungi. And we just talked about how algae belongs to kingdom protista. And the key difference is that algae are photosynthetic organisms and fungi are heterotrophic and feed on dead organic matter. So I'm kind of like taking the idea of reading a book about a plant or fungus and reading a book about an algae instead. So let me tell you what Pink Slime is about. a taut, harrowing novel about a woman and the people who depend on her as the world around them teeters on the edge of apocalypse. In a city ravaged by a mysterious plague, a woman tries to understand why her world is falling apart. An algae bloom has poisoned the previously pristine air that blows in from the sea. Inland, a secretive corporation churns out the only food anyone can afford, a revolting pink paste made of an unknown substance. In short, desperate breaks between deadly windstorms, our narrator stubbornly ten- let me try this again. In the short, desperate breaks between deadly windstorms, our narrator stubbornly tends to her few remaining with her difficult but vulnerable mother, with the ex husband for whom she still harbors feelings, with the boy she nannies, whose parents sent him away even as terrible threats loomed. Yet, as conditions outside deteriorate further, her commitment to remaining in place only grows, even if staying means being left behind. An evocative elegy for a safe, clean world, Pink Slime is buoyed by humor and its narrator's resiliency. This unforgettable novel explores the place where love, responsibility, and self preservation converge, and the beauty and fragility of our most intimate relationships. So that sounds really interesting. And I'm looking forward to it. The next prompt for the week of weird is to read a new to you author. So I'm double dipping here because Fernanda Trias is a new to me author. So I'm taking care of both prompts there. The third prompt is to watch a weird movie. And I have a couple of options that I'm considering. I may get to both. Um, Due to recent events, with David Lynch's passing, I am watching Twin Peaks. Yes, you can come for me. I never watched this show. I was always intrigued by it, but I never did watch it. So now here I am watching Twin Peaks. And that's partially also due to the fact that I just reread The Haunting of Velkwood, which was my favorite book of 2024. And I read that for Cliff and Kristine's book club, um, Fright Club, and they asked me to be a guest host on their discussion. So I got to reread The Haunting of Velkwood. That was another 5-star the second time around. And anyway, Gwendolyn Keist, who wrote The Haunting of Velkwood, drew a lot of inspiration from the work of David Lynch. So I've kind of been delving into not only David Lynch, but also other aspects of the suburban Gothic, which is where you could classify The Haunting of Velkwood. I know I'm rambling, but I'm trying to explain, my reason for rewatching Twin Peaks. And now to the point of this all, rambly ongoing, whatever you want to call it, I just did. So the two movies that I'm planning to watch in March are Twin Peaks Firewalk with Me, but I'm not watching that until I finish the series. And the other movie that's weird by David Lynch that I plan to watch in March is Blue Velvet. Again, tying into those themes of the suburban Gothic. Whew, I said a lot there. My goodness. Okay. And so the fourth prompt is to read the group read for the week of weird. And this is The Man Who Found Out. And I am sorry, but every time I read The Man Who Found Out, I keep thinking that there should be the title instead. The man who fucked around and found out. I'm sorry, because when I hear found out, all I think is fuck around and find out. Okay, so The Man Who Found Out by Algernon Blackwood. He probably did fuck around before he found out. That's usually how these stories go. Okay. Mark Ebor, as Dr. Laidlaw knew him in his laboratory, was one man. But Mark Ebor, as he sometimes saw him after work was over, with rapt eyes and ecstatic face, discussing the possibilities of union with God and the future of the human race, was quite another. I have always held, as you know, he was saying one evening as he sat in the little study beyond the laboratory with his assistant and intimate, that vision should play a large part in the life of the awakened man. Not to be regarded as infallible, of course, but to be observed and made use of as a guidepost to possibilities. I'm aware of your peculiar views, sir, the young doctor put in deferentially with a certain impatience. And it just kind of stops there. The next book club I'm participating in is the Haunted Victorian Book Club, which is run by Elizabeth at Elizabeth Sagewood. And the Haunted Victorian Book Club pick for March is Lady of Ashes by Kristine Trent. So let me get that pulled up for us. Okay. In 1861 London, Violet Morgan is struggling to establish a good reputation for the undertaking business that her husband has largely abandoned. She provides comfort for the grieving, advises them on funeral fashion and etiquette, and arranges funerals. Unbeknownst to his wife, Graham, who has nursed a hatred of America since his grandfather soldiered for Great Britain in the War of 1812, becomes involved in a scheme to sell arms to the South. Meanwhile, Violet receives the commission of a lifetime, undertaking the funeral for a friend of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. But her position remains precarious, especially when Graham disappears and she begins investigating a series of deaths among the poor. And the closer she gets to the truth, the greater the danger for them both. That sounds very intriguing. Okay, so next, I am going to be talking about the books that I'm reading because they're just the ones I want to read. So, the first one I want to talk about is The Dead Spot, and this is by Angela Sylvain. And I had heard her name before and wanted to check out her work. But then I saw an interview this morning with Michael Wertenberg where he interviewed Angela and she was talking about her books. And one of them that she talked about is The Dead Spot, Stories of Lost Girls. And I said, okay, yeah, I've got to read that. And so let me tell you what it's about. I'm going to link that interview down below too, so you can watch it. It's a fantastic interview. All right. The Dead Spot, Stories of Lost Girls is the debut short story collection from the author of Frostbite and Chopping Spree. The Dead Spot, a corner drenched in shadow, an earthquake's epicenter, the part of a roller coaster ride where the car rounds the final curve and all force dissipates, leaving those trapped beneath the safety bar feeling sick and hollow. The Dead Spot is a heart wrenching collection of 17 stories where lost girls and women live and die, where they laugh, cry, and disappear from view around that final curve. So, Angela described this as sad girl lit, and that lit me up. Sorry. And so I decided to read The Dead Spot. And then the other book that, well, I actually have a couple more, but I'm not going to say much about them. But let me talk about the other book that I want to read in March. And that is Where I End by Sophie White. Ailyn is cursed. She has no friends, never gone to school. She has never left this wind-swept, craggy isle off the coast of Ireland. Her mother is cursed, a silent wreck Ailyn calls the bed thing. Alongside her grandmother, Ailyn's days are an endless monotony of feeding, changing, and caring for the bed thing. Their island seems cursed, whispering secrets only Ailyn hears. Then Rachel, a vivacious artist from the mainland, arrives with her colicky newborn. Rachel arouses yearnings Aelin cannot fully comprehend. Soon, the unfolding of her mother's secret tragedy and Aelin's pursuit of her own dark desires are both destined to unleash a maelstrom upon all three of their lives. I've heard this one has very dark tones. I'm listening also currently to the Talking Scared podcast with Neil McRobert, and he called Where I Am the most disturbing book he's read. I don't know if he said ever or if he said recently. I cannot remember, but all of those things make me want to read it. So, you know, guess what that means for my psyche, or why I love the dark things I love, and have fun with that. Okay, so the last two books I want to talk about, I'm currently reading one of them right now, and I talked about both of these in my recent book haul video, which I will link down below. And I'm also vlogging these two books in a new release horror vlog that I'll be posting as soon as I get done with both of them, so I don't want to say a lot about them here. But those books are Hungerstone by Kat Dunn and The Lamb by Lucy Rose. So thank you so much for hanging with me and getting all into my jumbly rumbly head. And I would love to know if you're participating in the Week of Weird. Are you participating in any book clubs in March? What are you excited to read? And I would also greatly appreciate it if you would hit that like button, if you would subscribe, and that way we can keep talking, or I can keep rambling on about books that I read and books that I want to read. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.